Hi, and welcome. I'm the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Gaver, Presbyterian minister of 3 congregations in Eastern Ontario, and thank you for joining us for this week's Puzzles and Faith. The question this week concerns Judas Iscariot. Is he a hero or a villain? We tend to think of him as this villain. After all, he betrayed Jesus. But why? And that question has led to so many different characterizations of Judas Iscariot in movies and literature. Was he someone who somehow came to see Jesus as a threat? So he goes to the high priests and talks, and they pay him to betray Jesus, but he doesn't want the money. Or was he greedy and went to the high priest and say, how much are you going to pay me to betray him? Was he a patriot? Did the devil enter into him? These are all some of the possibilities that we have. And in movies, you'll see him portrayed in different ways. In one movie, he's sort of Jesus' best friend, but he's also a patriot. He believes the Messiah is going to drive out the Romans. He has no understanding of what Jesus is really teaching or preaching. He's not able to do miracles himself because he doesn't believe. And when he betrays Jesus, it's to push Jesus into doing something to actually take up those military arms against the Romans. He's a patriot. There's a lot that can be said about him, including the fact that we don't know. But one of the lessons we need to learn from Judas is he was one of the 12. He was part of that inner sort of core of followers around Jesus. And yet, if he was a bad person, he betrayed Jesus. So if he was bad, realize what that means. It means that we can have people that are ministers or priests, wardens, elders, deacons, and just because they're doing God's work, they're in leadership positions, does not automatically make them good people. They could be sheep, wolves in disguise as sheep. We have to be on our guard. And in a sense, that's one of the things we need to take away with us about Judas Iscariot. But there's another question. Because the Gospels present Judas as fulfilling prophecy. Jesus was to be betrayed. He would be betrayed by a close friend, by one of the 12. So, in that case, does Judas deserve to be condemned at all? Isn't he fulfilling God's will? Isn't he doing what God wanted him to do? And in fact, there's a Gospel of Judas that suggests, I'm not sure about my information, but it suggests that Jesus actually asked Judas to betray him. And that raises a horrible specter. The question of free will. How much free will do we really have? And if Judas was simply doing what God wanted him to do, should he even be condemned? Oh, that's a nasty one. And that kind of question will come up over and over again. But one way of looking at it is to realize we operate in time and space. And we see time sort of linearly. Things happen in the past, present, future. And we walk through time. God created time and space. Sometimes he operates within time and space, but sometimes he is above, looking down. And as he's looking down, he can see past, present, and future, and he sees what Judas decides. So at that point, there's free will. Judas is free to make that choice to betray Jesus or not. And God's looking down and sees the choice he made, and then is free to go back in the past and create a prophecy that leads to it. So we still have free will. There's also another way of looking at it. Is the situation was such that betrayal was inevitable. Someone would betray Jesus. Someone would come to Jesus convinced he was the Messiah, but not understand the kind of Messiah he was, and would be determined to push Jesus into driving out the Romans, into armed insurrection. Or someone would be there who was really good at seeming to be friendly, but was secretly pocketing the money. God knew that the situation was such that those were possibilities. Those actually would be high probabilities. 90% certain that someone would do it. But who was up in the air? Would it have been Peter? Would it have been Matthew? Would it have been? And again, you've got free will. So there are some of the ways that we look at it where we see God knowing that there would be a betrayal, knowing someone would betray Jesus. So you can't say that Judas is doing what God wants, but rather what God expected. You can't say that he's a hero unless Jesus did ask him to betray him. You can't say that there was no free will, because it really seems that Judas was free to respond however he chose. So he is probably a villain, someone who made bad choices. But we have to also remember one other thing. When Jesus died on the cross, he basically asked God, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. That's forgiving Judas as well. So, traitor to be condemned? No. Hero to be praised? No. Human being? Like the rest of us? Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for this week's Puzzles and Faith. No, it's not exactly the answer you were hoping for, but it's the best that we can do. I'm going to be on vacation for a couple of weeks, so there'll be a couple of weeks with no questions. But next week's question is so easy to answer that it will be posted. So join us again. Ask your own questions in the comment section below, and see you next week. Take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.